All right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Bahasham, Warach Wadash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of the great millstone who ruled well and taught us this truth. And a sincere peace and salutation to the Aki and pushing this word. And truth and in all sincerity, Brother Ganan coming back at you with a quick video. Lord's word is going to be quick. I was watching last night a video from the Wi-Fi camp over there in Baltimore Harbor. For some reason it was on my feed. I don't normally watch them, but I just happened to I seen it in my feed, wasn't doing nothing, so I just clicked on it. And it was some other guys, I guess they, I didn't catch the name, what they call themselves. But they call themselves a Hebrew Israelite camp. And this is, we're gonna go into the baptism just real quick. As you can see, I'm on the go driving, so I'm just gonna quote scriptures. I'm not gonna, pull out my other phone. But basically, in a nutshell, what they were saying is, he was emphasizing, the importance of the baptism, by water, which shows you the level that those guys was on. Wi-Fi was completely on point. For the most part, from what I see, they are on point for the most part. I know we differ in certain things in the doctrine. I don't know right offhand, but they was on point. But them other guys was completely foolish, and they don't understand the baptism and the importance of it. They kept emphasizing, the importance of being washed with water in the physical, and they're ignoring the spiritual sense of being baptized and submerged in the baptism. When you read Matthew 3:11, and he said, he that comes after me is basically, shoes he's not worthy to loose. Roughly paraphrasing, brothers know. Basically, John the Baptist speaking of Yahweh Shah, saying that he will baptize us with water and with fire. And the fire is the real baptism that you want to, focus on. Because that baptism, that fire is that fire of adversity. It's the trials and tribulations that the righteous is going to have to go through on that path of that straight gate. Pursuant to Matthew the 7th chapter. When you read Ephesians 4:20 on down, it talks about when you do hear of Yahweh Shah, when you are being taught of Yahweh Shah, then you have to change your conduct. You have to change it says the form of conversation, which is your conduct. You have to completely kill off your old man, mortify the members of your body, and become that new man, which is after righteousness and true holiness. And that's the true focus. You just focus on, because that's what Christians do. They say, hey, I've been baptized today, and they speak of Jesus for a couple days or a week or two, but eventually they come back to who they always were. Because that baptism, when you just focus on the water and not the internal of really trying to transform and become a new man, you're not really giving yourself to the Lord. Romans 12:1. You have to give yourself as a living sacrifice unto the Heavenly Father. Scriptures say, who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? That's not easy, man. I was, you see this streaming, these streamers, they always got the clips. They put it in everybody's algorithm, so you don't have a choice but to see it if you on social media. And the dude Castanet had a streaming university, and basically, it was a dude named Plaque Boy Max on there, and this dude's completely bugged out. A little short, light-skinned nigga. He got diva tatted on him, and if you go into that word diva, it basically means demon. And it was this Jamaican dude on stream in front of millions of people. he basically told him about himself. You know, the dude wear wigs and all of that shit. But then he said he's not gay. So the dude was calling him a demon and said that you need to gain back your soul or whatever the case may be. But you know, he got crucified for it. You know, on social media. You know, he basically got crucified for it, and even he started to backtrack. You know, and you can see anybody who heard of it that's a straight man. They started to, you know, everybody was on the side of the Playboy Max dude, you know, but the dude was completely right. That's what it takes, you know, to truly be submerged in this baptism, you know, to stand up against the workers of iniquity and to really understand that the world is going to hate you. Like Yahushua told us in red letter in John 15 and 18 on down. You know, basically in a nutshell, the servant is not greater than his master. You know, if the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. You know, and only the men of the Lord, only the hopeful elect is going to be prepared for the true hatred that you know, being under the true baptism comes with. You know, this is not a thing of being baptized in a dirty lake of water by mainly more than likely a pastor that didn't even transform himself, a pastor that's not truly baptized himself. You know, these guys don't have the true spirit of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Matter of fact, those guys didn't even call themselves. They don't pray to Yahushua. You know, he said we call him Yahushua and you call him Yahushua. You know, these guys, like a lot of these guys that call themselves Israelites in 2026, they're performers, man. You know, after every word that they was going back and forth with the Wi-Fi camp, they kept saying all praises to the Most High, all praises to the Most High, with a smile on their face, like after every word. You know, when they come to a quick understanding, all praises to the Most High, it's just a gimmick to them. It's a game. You know, and we coming into the time where the true worshipers are going to be known. Because a lot of these guys, they crept in unawares. They don't know what they truly into. They don't know the fight that they truly going to have to fight. That's why it's important to truly be baptized, to truly be submerged in this thing. Because when it's time to put your faith on the line, a lot of these people ain't going to be ready. A lot of these people is going to fold. A lot of these people is going to denounce being an Israelite. They're going to denounce the Lord. They're not going to be ready because they don't truly believe. They didn't truly commit themselves to the Lord. They committed themselves to a cause here on earth to gain followers, to gain notoriety, to gain friends, or whatever the case may be. But they didn't truly invest themselves into a relationship with Yahweh Yahushua. And that's what the baptism is all about, man. The baptism is to be cleansed, you know? Like it says in Sirach 2:5, for gold is tried in the fire and acceptable men in this furnace of adversity. You know? For gold is tried in the fire and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. You know? Not everyone is going to be acceptable. Not everybody is truly ready for the true baptism. That Lord's willing, we are part of that number. Lord's willing, we those men. You know, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, they don't truly understand what it means to be baptized, man. And like I said, you know, I'll give credit where credit is due. Wi-Fi broke it down perfectly. You know, they broke it down perfectly, but you can still see those dudes didn't get it. You know, the baptism is more spiritual than it is physical. You know, yeah, back in the day, you know, you get baptized in water or whatever the case may be, but the true baptism is spiritual, man. You know, and that's the point of the video. That's really what I wanted to get out of this, is that the baptism is spiritual. You know, those guys are natural men. They don't understand the spiritual side, you know. And again, I don't know, Lord Swear, I put the link of that video I'm talking about in my comments, you know, later on, you know. So if brothers want to see, well, brothers probably already seen it, but if brothers want to see the video I'm talking about, you can go chime in and put your 2 cents in there if you would like. But yeah, man, we're getting close to the end of this thing, and because of, you know, our leaders, a lot of people are starting to jump on this Hebrew Israelite thing, but a lot of people don't have the true understanding, because they want to do it their own way. You know, they don't want to come up under order or structure. They want to do things their own way, you know. So you're going to see a lot of these people pop up and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So it's important for us to set the record straight, you know, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. But, you know, that's it, man. I'm getting close to my destination. So, you know, till the next one, we'll give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to our apostles and elders of the great millstone who ruled well, taught us this truth. Shalom to the elect.